The Russia controversy has clung to the White House like glue, throwing up a foaming frenzy of intrigue, deepening a scandal, or just creating a crisis, depending on your view. It's revealed an eccentric cast: publicists, pop stars, lawyers, and the president's inner circle. Sky News hears from key players who saw events unfold from the inside.
Nobody was concerned about Russia. We didn't have a policy shop that was even thinking about Russia.
Vladimir Putin served in Germany, and I think he was channeling the Brothers Grimm and leaving Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs all the way from Trump Tower to the Kremlin and doing it on purpose.
When we look at Washington, we don't see a real group of the wise people. We see this red-eyed bull.
The Russia story is a total fabrication. It's just an excuse for the greatest loss in the history of American politics. That's all it is.
On June the 9th, 2016, the presidential race was in full swing. Inside Trump Tower, we now know Donald Trump Jr., Jared Kushner, and then campaign chairman Paul Manafort met Russian lawyer Natalia Veselnitskaya. She'd allegedly promised damaging information about Hillary Clinton, though she denies it. She also denies any connection to the Russian government, who in turn denied any knowledge of her. Curiously, a British music publicist, Rob Goldstone, says he helped get the group together.
Once news of the meeting broke, the impact was explosive. Some thought it was the closest thing to a smoking gun, even though it's produced no conclusive evidence that the Kremlin was behind it.
So when you look at the three Russians who attended the meeting, there was Natalia Veselnitskaya, the lawyer, who was connected to the FSB and lobbied against the Magnitsky Act. You've got Akhmedchin, who was formerly served in the Soviet military, which adds a measure of intrigue. And then Emina Garalov, whose father is a Kremlin-connected oligarch. And so it really doesn't take very much research to determine that these three, at least, have Kremlin connections.
But they all vehemently deny they are linked to or were working for the Russian government.
I've made the former Soviet Union my business for almost 25 years. I'm absolutely certain there's no Trump-Putin connection. Nothing. Nada. Nichivo.
Was it normal to have unplanned meetings with unnamed people?
I would say that was not outside the norm. It wasn't normal to do that, but it was not something that we never heard of.
But this was a Russian lawyer promising to dish the dirt on Hillary Clinton. Should that not have raised a red flag?
For an experienced campaign operative, yes, it should have raised a red flag. For the son of a candidate who's running a non-traditional campaign, a son who was still trying to find his footing in the campaign, his role, the kids were probably more important than the staff in that campaign. And at that time, Donald Trump Jr. and his siblings were trying to find the best way to be effective. And when somebody comes to you and says, I've got the link that's going to put your opponent out of the race, your eyes light up.
In retrospect, I probably would have done things a little differently. Again, this is before the Russia mania. This is before they were building it up in the press. For me, this was opposition research.
When the story first appeared, Donald Trump Jr. made no mention the Trump Tower meeting was anything to do with Hillary Clinton. It since emerged that on Air Force One, his father offered advice on a written statement.
Nothing came of the meeting. And I think it's a meeting that most people in politics probably would have taken.
The pretext of the meeting was, hey, we have information, and there was, some small talk. I don't even remember what it was. It just was sort of nonsensical.
The purpose of the meeting was for a group of Russians who were representing major state interests in Russia, came there with one very specific request, which was to repeal the Magnitsky Act, this piece of legislation that I got passed in 2012.
Sergei Magnitsky was a lawyer who claimed he'd uncovered a massive tax fraud. The act, named after him, places sanctions on people suspected of links to his death.
Let's go into the meeting. Quickly went on to, a story about Russian adoption and how we could possibly help, and really that's where we shut it down.
There were no conversations about adoptions in any of these claims that there were conversations about adoption. It's nonsense. It just didn't happen. What did happen, adoption is a code word for repealing Magnitsky sanctions. Why do they use the word adoption? Because when Magnitsky Act was passed, one of Putin's retaliations was to ban the adoption of Russian orphans by American families. But nobody was talking about adoptions in those meetings.
Other Kremlin watchers allege there is an industry based on empty promises.
A lot of people, like Veselnitskaya, who are seen getting money by trading different secrets, all of them, dozens, or probably hundreds of them, come as a butterfly to the light, to the Donald Trump campaign headquarters to trade by different secrets. 90% of those secrets have been fake secrets.
Was this collusion in your mind?
No. This was a Russian influence operation designed to create turmoil in the United States. It was designed to interfere with our election process, induce a media feeding frenzy that would consequently interfere with our governing process as well, and then elevate Russia in the minds of many to the same status as the United States as a player on the world stage.
In Brighton Beach, a Russian enclave in New York, there is a mix of trust and suspicion.
Donald Trump is great. I love him. He loves America, and he wants America to be strong and good. The best. We love him.
Should Donald Trump trust Vladimir Putin?
I don't think so, because Vladimir Putin was KGB and so smart, and I don't think Trump trusts Putin.
Good businessman. I think we have great future. Make America great again, right?
I trust Donald Trump.
Why?
I trust him because he will do the best for this country. His brain working very good.
Do you think that Vladimir Putin is trying to create chaos and
Absolutely.
here in America?
Yes. He's trying, of course. As much as possible, he's trying. Definitely.
You think Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin should be close?
Why not? They are leaders. They're going to make everything in the right way.
Back in Washington, much to Mr. Trump's frustration, the legal net around his presidency has tightened. Robert Mueller, the man in control of the probe, has established a grand jury with the power to decide if criminal charges should be brought. It's not just Russian election meddling being investigated, but reportedly possible financial crimes, and whether the president tried to obstruct justice.
Mueller was looking at your finances or your family's finances unrelated to Russia. Is that a red line?
Would that be a breach of what his actual
I would say
charge
yes.
is?
Yeah, I would say yes. I don't make money from Russia.
Do you have faith that this is and will be a fair investigation?
Yeah, Bob Mueller has a great reputation. We're going to make sure he goes forward fairly, and but he'll be held account by the way he conducts it. The president can, he can say anything he wants to about the political nature of this. This is not a witch hunt. There's real evidence that Russia interfered in our election. No evidence of collusion yet between the Trump team and the Russians, but we're going to keep looking.
Where do we go from here?
It's not going away ever. We also think that this FBI or the special counsel investigation could go on for more than a year, perhaps 2. So even though the Russia collusion delusion will be proven to be nothing, the investigations are going to go on for political reasons in Congress and for law enforcement reasons in the FBI. Once you task a special counsel to go out and get some scalps, he's going to come back with some scalps.
We look forward to a lot of very positive things happening for Russia, for the United States.
Whatever 2 self-styled strongmen wanted, it was Congress that forced Trump's hand, pushing him to impose sanctions, prompting Putin to engage in a tit-for-tat expulsion of U.S. diplomats.
Donald Trump wants to have good relations with everyone. And the fact that the Democrats and the anti-Trump people in Congress are tying his hands, I think that's a shame for everyone. That's a shame for every single American. It's a shame for every single Briton, because now we don't stand a chance to improve the relationship. The same chance that George W. had, the same chance that Hillary Clinton had, Donald Trump doesn't get.
Donald Trump believes his opponents are trying to delegitimize his victory. Even if Vladimir Putin didn't care who won, the doubts around his role could deliver a paralyzing defeat. America losing faith in its own democracy.